is a presentation of the iRacing Esports Network.
Turn of the century, car headed to Phillip Island, one of Australia's premier racing venues. Today, the Classic IndyCar visits the island for the finale of the 2018 season. It is all about second place between Robert Grosser and Matt Cook in the standings. Grosser and Vortex Sim Racing are brought back up, outnumbering Cook's AeroX squad 6-2. In 68 laps time, we will know who will take that runner-up position. Jack Stiles alongside Neil Hitley with Hugo Luis on the cameras, bringing you all the action today on the iRacing Esports Network. And Neil, Phillip is more used to hosting V8 supercars on MotoGP, not these IndyCars. How is it going to differ for the drivers coming from Silverstone just 2 weeks ago?
Yes, it certainly is. This 4.44 kilometre track here at the very southern tip of Australia. You've got to work very, very hard to get any further south from here. It's a very, very fun track, and compared to Silverstone, time out with these classic car series, it has a little bit of similarity. They're both very, very fast racetracks, but the thing is, Phillip Island, not particularly an airfield. There's a lot of elevation change here, and the two hardest corners in the track are both the right-handed hairpins. At the first one, turn 4, you've got to be careful of someone getting shoveled out wide at turn 3. You can't really stop on grass, especially in these cars. And the second right-handed hairpin over by turn 9 and 10. That's a very, very steep decline coming into the corner. You've just got to be careful that you don't lock up any of those tyres.
And a weather report just as qualifying enters its final minute here at Phillip Island. 65 degrees Fahrenheit in the air, 46% humidity, and a headwind down the main straight of 14 miles an hour. Championship standings up on your screen. Henry Bennett is confirmed as both the overall champion of the 2018 Classic IndyCar Series and also the road champion as well. The championship dedicated to just the road races. That gap between Matt Cook and Robert Grosser, though, that's still wide open. 20 points between them. And Randy Shoemate could throw in a bit of a curveball with Robert Grosser. It is possible for him to score enough points to be able to take third place if Robert Grosser has a bad day. So it's all to play for here. Just a couple of drivers left to qualify. We have got a couple of rear grid penalties here today. Looks like Joni Kayanen is the only one on the grid, though, who has taken it. Jonathan Diggs, Ben Gregory, and Randy Krosno all not here today. I'll no send that. Jonathan Diggs is, sorry, I'm just me doing my timing screen. So Jonathan Diggs also taking his rear off-grid penalty. Dennis Garis for Vortex Sim Racing, as we see Tim Hauser ran out of the final corner for Vortex as the checkered flag flies here at Phillip Island as he moves himself up to 18th position. Dennis Garis, one of the Vortex Sim Racing drivers, making his first start of the season in the final race. So clearly Vortex Sim Racing want to go out with a bang in these final moments.
Yes, they are certainly wanting to go out for a bang, mainly because they want to have as many drivers as possible for that team's championship. Logical Vortex Sim Racing just 21 points behind Power Slide Classic Motorsports. You've got to remember, there's, I think you said just before we came on air, there's 6 Logical cars here today. You've got to remember only the top 2 score points for the championship, so they're wanting to have as many cars as possible in order to get as many points as possible.
As all the drivers head way down to the grid so they can start the pace lap here at Phillip Island. We can run you through your starting grid for the final round of 2018. Matt Cook gets pole by just 800ths of a second from Henry Bennett. A time of 1 minute 13.377 puts him in the pole position. Robert Grosser starting third. Timo Sinyemi starting fourth. So it's an all-logical Vortex second row. Randy Shoemate, Lucas Laville 5th and 6th. Johnny Great in 7th. Christian Richter in 8th. And 9th is going to go to Klaus Peterson. Hans Pickman going to round out the top 10. Jan Hoffman in 11th. Andrew Aitken in 12th. Franz Josef Stum 13th. Carson Bromley 14th. Jos van der Ven in 15th. Niall McBride in 16th. Mike Gerlich going to line up 17th. Tim Hauser, another one of those 6 Logical Vortex cars, starting 18th not the qualifying he would have wanted. Sam Whittam 19th, Dennis Garissa in 20th, the last driver to get a qualifying time in. Yoni Kynan, David Costello, Andrew Adair Saunders, Marshall Stanley and Jonathan Diggs all failed to put in a quality time in the 10-minute session, 2 of them because they have rear of grid penalties. Just 12 seconds left for the drivers to get their way down onto the starting grid, and 68 laps of racings will be ahead of these drivers. And Neil, it's 68 laps where you have to be concentrated all the way. It's only going to be about an 85-minute race, we think, so it's not going to hit the 2-hour time limit, and of course no cautions here today at Phillip Island.
Indeed, about 85 minutes of flat-out racing. Of course, unlike Silverstone last time, there was a little bit of tarmac you could use if you went slightly wide anywhere. But here at Phillip Island, it's grass right there on the edge of the track, so you cannot make a single mistake.
Turn 1 is always a biting point for the race starts, especially rolling starts here at Phillip Island. It's a very long right-hand sweeping corner. You can see it on your screen now as the field goes. It makes its way through that turn 1, 2x2. You can just see, actually, you can see how it does slip up some drivers there, Neil. We have had a lot of incidents. One that I can remember is the start to the International GT3 Championship earlier this year at Phillip Island, and it was just, people were going off left, right and centre. It always makes drivers slip up, and that's why Phillip Island is such a challenging circuit.
Yes, and as you just saw in the wide shot there in the exit of turn 2, you can see there's no barrier between turn 1 and that short shoot between 2 and 3. That might be something to look out for. If someone goes incredibly wide at turn 1, you could be in for a torpedoing on that short shoot.
Sure, certainly a torpedo is not how these drivers will want to have their race started or ended at any point. And of course, they do have to remember it can all be thrown away on the first lap. And a race as long as this can't be won on the first corner. It's going to be all about who takes that checkered flag first. Essentially, if Matt Cook beats Robert Grosser, he gets a runner-up position. Robert Grosser has a good race, can score 20 points more, 21 points more than Matt Cook. Then Robert Grosser is in with a shout of second position. Don't count out Randy Shoemake, though, to get involved in this one and maybe throw up some hiccups. Currently riding on board with the number 3 machine. That is Randy Shoemake. He's starting in 5th. He's in 4th in the points, and he's 40 points behind Robert Grosser, so I believe it is still statistically possible for him to get 3rd place. Whether it's logically possible, well, we'll have to wait and see. Another one on board here today at RaceSpot TV and on the iRacing Esports Networks is of Franz Josef Sturm, as the cars all round themselves down Lukey Heights, through turn 10, through turn 11. The pace car will peel itself off to the left as they head through Swan Corner, and it will be left under the control of Matt Cook. The pace car does indeed do that. Matt Cook jumps earlier. We are racing at Phillip Island. Good start from the number 46. Henry Bennett going to follow side by side. It's the 3rd position between Robert Grosser and Timo Isinniemi. The 2 teammates certainly don't want to take each other out on the first corner. And it just looks as though, is Robert Grosser going to have the advantage into turn number 1? I think he does. They're still going to go side by side. And Isinniemi going to go breezing around the outside. A little bit further back, Carsten Brodby getting past Jos van der Ven. Klaus Beeson getting past Christian Richter. Hans Pickenen past Hoffman. And Lucas Laville gets his way past Randy Shoemake. So other than that, actually, a nice clean start from everyone. We have got a slow car through turn number 2. That is the 56. There is a couple more cars involved. I think that was the number 45 of Jonathan Diggs.
Yes, the 56 by the looks of it there of TM Hauser went off at turn 2. We're riding on board with him at the moment, coming through turn 1. That flat out right-handed sweeper coming to 2. What happened to him? Let's have a look. It looks like he might have just been spooked ever so slightly by the 31 there on the outside. Over the top of him goes the 16, just rolls over in the gravel.
Well, the 6 Logical Vortex Sim racing cars, they're already down to 4. Timo Isinniemi has managed to get himself up into 2nd position on the start, getting himself past Henry Bennett. Henry Bennett's just looking for a quiet day in that the orange machine. In 3rd place is Dennis Garissa and Andrew Aitken cycle themselves back down through the orders. Our timing screens will update for you, ladies and gentlemen. We are lap 1 down, 67 to go here at Phillip Island. Everyone off to a nice clean start. You can see already some drivers making their way up the pack. Timo Isinniemi up 2. The driver of Klaus Peterson up 2. The driver of Franz Josef Sturm up 3. He is the best starter in your top 15 so far. 23 drivers, I believe, took the green flag. So it's a good finish actually for the season for grid numbers in what has been a record-breaking year for the Classic IndyCar Series.
Yes, 25 taking the green flag here today. Certainly around a short and fast circuit such as Phillip Island. You've got to remember the qualifying times. The pole position time was only 73 seconds. It's an incredibly fast circuit, so we may get into lapping territory soon.
It won't be long before the drivers will have to start dealing with traffic. Henry Bennett has managed to get his way back past the driver of Team Yami. No, he hasn't. I'm just looking at Robert Grosser. I'm getting confused between my logical Vortex drivers. So Henry Bennett's still in third. Pardon me on that one, but Matt Cook, an absolutely storming start to this race. He already has a lead of 1.7 seconds, and he has set a lap time that last time around was at least 0.3 of a second faster than anyone behind him. As Neil just sounds like he's having a couple of technical difficulties. We'll get him back for you in just a moment. Sam Winton is having a battle with Joni Kajanen. This is for 14th place back in the mid-pack. It just looks as though the driver of Sam Winton has been able to get the move done through turn 1 and 2. So they head themselves through turn number 3 and down into Honda corner. This is, of course, Phillip Island, an old Honda MotoGP testing circuit. One of their, obviously, their test riders was, of course, the Australian Casey Stoner, who was absolutely dominant in the latter 2000s in MotoGP. He obviously retired from racing not long after he won his successive championships, and the reign of Marc Marquez very quickly took over. Joni Kajanen still putting the pressure onto the driver ahead of him. That's Hans Pitkänen. So this is the battle for 13th position. We can see a drive around just behind. That is the number 167 of Jos van der Ven for 4X Racing. He seems to know he's got himself going again. Take us through this one, Neil.
Yeah, just coming across, looking heights at the top of this big undulation change. It looks like he just got wide ever so slightly into the marbles and lost grip on those right-hand side tyres. Speared him across to the left. Very lucky that nobody was following him very close behind.
And if I'm not mistaken, I believe there was a car on the right-hand side stopped. I may have been seeing things. I was seeing things. Getting a little bit disillusional in the early stages of this race, clearly, but Jos van der Ven has got back going again. He's rejoined the fray in 18th position. The driver Jonathan Diggs, obviously having to serve that rear of grid penalty. He's already up to 19th in 4th position, but we do have a nice train of cars for 2nd position. This is Timo Yami, Henry Bennett, Robert Grosser, Lucas Laville. This is 3 logical Vortex sim racing cars and Henry Bennett. This is a very strong pack that Matt Cook has to keep his eye on throughout this race.
And of course, the good thing, if this pack keeps on battling, Matt Cook is running away with the lead, so he has to hope that these 3-4 cars keep on trying to fight with each other.
And if they keep on trying to fight with each other, it does allow Matt Cook to get away. This is currently playing into his hands for the runner-up spot in the championship. Henry Bennett, you can see on your screen, he's putting the pressure onto Timo Yami into turn number 2 this time around. But Robert Gross is still there. Do not count out the German, because the German can be mighty rapid. So can Lucas Laville behind. He joined Vortex Sim Racing mid-season. The graphic on your right-hand side of your screen, powered by our graphics partner, ATVO, is giving you a good view of Henry Bennett shoving it down the inside of Timo Yami. Robert Gross is going to try the same thing. Don't think he's going to be able to do it. I think Yami with the inside line for Siberia and into turn number 7. They've got it, so it stays Yami, Grosser, Laville, but Henry Bennett managed to get his way back up into 2nd position, which means he can now charge down the driver of Matt Cook.
At least try to. It's going to be a big ask. You have a look at onboard at Grosser coming down into the turn 10 hairpin. Not close enough to make a move that time round, but you can see the varying lines through there. The car ahead in 3rd place is Yami, if I'm not mistaken, taking a very tight line through there. However, Grosser just going a little bit wider, because of course the last 2 corners, I should say, here rather, are flat out. And of course, many corners around here are flat out. As you can see, round the outside goes number 2 car into turn 1.
Lucas Laville gets himself past Mr. 3 times, so Laville's up into 4th. Grosser's dropped down to 5th, and I think this could play into Grosser's hands well. Try and get some fuel safe behind the Frenchman and make sure he just doesn't have to make as long a first pit stop. But for Lucas Laville, this could play into his hands. Could he get a podium in the final round of the season? Don't forget, Robert Grosser, all the way up till the last race at Silverstone, hadn't had a win. Bearing in mind that he's 3-time champion of this series. Going into 2018, it looked like it was going to be a tough defence to get his 4th title. He wasn't able to do it, and he only took his first win last time out, only because others hit trouble. I mean, he was over the moon, don't get me wrong, but for Logical Vortex Sim Racing has not been the year they wanted. They're going to want to come back in 2019 with a much stronger team that's got a lot more built up to it. There is a car off to the left. That is a back marker. That's the 56 of TM Hauser. Oh, it's a Logical Vortex Sim Racing car that could very easily have just held up Matt Cook just a little bit. Played back into Logical Vortex's hands, but I just don't see how Matt Cook can lose that runner-up position. He's currently leading, and he looks very comfortable up at the front after 7 laps.
Yes, looking very comfortable at the front at the moment. We can see that Bennett's actually pulled away from the pack behind him, so he's doing very, very well in that 007 car, trying to catch down Matt Cook. That gap at the moment is 2.8 seconds, and he's currently 1.2 ahead of Isinyemi, who's leading that 3rd place battle pack.
And you can just see that battle behind the 3rd position between Isinyemi, Laville and Grosser. They're all sitting line astern at the moment. Obviously, all the 3 different teammates making sure that they just don't take each other out of the race, because it's called, one thing is racing and the other thing is taking your teammate out of the race. It's never something you want to do. We do have a battle on for 8th position in the race as well. This is between Franz-Josef Stum and Klaus Petersen. Petersen is where he started, but Franz-Josef Stum is up 5 positions, so Stum is having an absolutely storming race so far here today. And as in fact, it's showing on my tally screen that Franz-Josef Stum has dropped back, and he has indeed. So he's up 4 positions, sorry. But Klaus Petersen, he's going to do well to hold off a driver who's already charging through the field. Another one that I do need to mention is charging up 9 positions, the number 77 of Joni Kainen.
Yes, Joni Kainen doing a very good job as well. But as you can just see as they round turn 12, the final, well, I say that, you can see Kainen on screen here trying to pass the 35 car ahead, gaining, coming into 1. He's going to kamikaze up the inside, and he does. The 35 gives way.
And he just sends it down the inside and gets the position. Just looks as though Carsten Brophy didn't want to try and battle the number 77. So Kainen up into 11th position now after starting down in 21st in 8 laps. You've got to watch out for this guy throughout the rest of this race, because I feel like a top 5 might be on here. He could throw a bit of a curveball into the season finale, and I must say what a season it has been so far this year, with just another 60 laps remaining of it. Starting back in April, it was always a little bit open as to who was the favourite for the championship. Henry Bennett was clearly the favourite coming out of the Winter Series, winning the championship outright by an absolutely storming margin. And he's managed to do the same in the Summer Series, and it's something that not many drivers can say they've done. Only Henry Bennett, because they've only had the Winter Series once. And talking of Henry Bennett, Timo Isinyemi is clearly closing the gap. Last time around, he was 3/10 quicker. The gap between the 2 drivers is now less than a second.
Less than a second, 3/4 of a second as you come through turn 1 and up towards the very, very fast turn 2. You've really got to believe in your car around here. You've really got to pick up the throttle at the correct point, because if you don't, that's you off into the grass and the kitty litter on the right hand side.
And that kitty litter on the right-hand side is not somewhere where you want to end up. Just behind, you can see Lucas Laville and Robert Grosser having a good scrap. Grosser looks like he's managed to get back through to 4th. He has indeed. So the German back in front of the Frenchman. And just showing that he is, of course, team boss of Logical Vortex, and Lucas Laville may be thinking, actually, I need to let Robert through, make sure he can score as many points as humanly possible to try and make sure that he can close down that gap on Matt Cook. But at the moment, Matt Cook's going to score more points, still finishing that runner-up position in the championship. So they cross the line this time, will be 10 laps down, 59 remaining in this event. Still a long way to go, and of course, fuel strategy is important here, Neil. We're looking at about 26 laps on a full tank of fuel in clean air. In the draft and it's fuel saving, the drivers could go longer, so it's going to be a 2-stop race to the end. As on your screen is the battle between Johnny Gret and Klaus Petersen for position number 7. You can see that Klaus Petersen is consistently quicker than Gret.
Yes, you can see it. 2/10, 4/10 and 2/10 faster the last 3 laps respectively as he closes in. Look at that draft coming into turn 1, trying to stick it all the way around the outside. Still side by side through 1. It does mean, however, that Peterson has the inside for 2. That's that job done. The 96 goes up into 7th.
The 96 getting 1 more position, scoring more points towards this championship because, of course, the mid-pack is also very important in this series. It usually provides us with some of the best racing we see, especially on the ovals. 3-4 wide it's been known to be before. And I'm just looking at my point scoring.
That's the Ford car.
Go on, Neil.
Ford car very, very slow. It looks like he might have had a spin at the exit of turn 4 there as we're getting a replay up. The Ford car, let's have a look, just turns in. And it looks like Andrew Adair Saunders there just outbraked himself coming into the hairpin there. But he is now going a lap down to the rest of the field. But yes, you were saying before, the fuel strategy, 26 laps in the tank, which means we should be seeing the first pit stops between laps 16 and 26. If you want to go backwards from the end of the race, you can do it on 2 full tanks on lap 16. But of course, if you're going to have a shorter middle stint, or indeed a short, you can come in on lap 26. So we're going to have to see how the differing strategies work here at Phillip Island today in this 301.5 kilometre race.
And looking back towards the battle for second positions, the Team USA Yami has really closed the gap. It's down to 0.4 of a second. Just a few moments ago, he set the fastest lap of the event so far. 1 minute 14.487. Faster than your leader, faster than Henry Bennett, faster than the 2 drivers behind him. Isan Yami is on a charge. He wants to go out of this season on a high, go into 2019 with high hopes for good finishing positions all season long for the Finn. He is, of course, one of the regulars to the Classic IndyCar Series in that number 33, within 3/10 now of the driver of Henry Bennett as they head themselves out of 11. They're going to swan themselves through Swan Corner, the final corner onto the main straight to start lap number 12. In the draft, he'll sit. On board we ride. He's going to look to the left. Henry Bennett has got nothing much he can do. He's going to try and close the door. They're going to get very close to contact, but Isan Yami moves himself up into second as they head into turn 1. Bennett has the inside line, not able to hold off the position. Isan Yami up to second.
Up into second again, a very, very brave move, and you need to be brave if you want to get these front positions, especially through turn 1, because no doubt you're going to have to stick it round the outside. What I thought was very interesting there, when you had Isan Yami's on board, it looked like he had his fuel number on his dash, or at least how many laps of fuel he had left, and it said 14.5. So it looks like that he's filled up that tank right to the brim to begin this race. The question is, when is he going to come in? Going to run that tank dry, or is he going to come in at the first available opportunity?
I am not sure. We will have to wait and see what these guys do. Expect some split strategy as well. It's going to be a couple more laps before the pit window opens. It, of course, opens on lap 16, as you mentioned, Neil. And I think everyone's just got to be very cautious about what they do with the fuel numbers. But Isan Yami, he's clearly on the charge because he's setting good times. But Matt Cook has responded last time around to Team Isan Yami's fastest lap because he's done a 14.332. He has had a slower lap this time around though, because Isan Yami's managed to do 14.6 to his 14.8. So potentially, if Team Isan Yami keeps taking a 10th out of Matt Cook here and there, he could bring both himself and Henry Bennett to the lead. And we might see Team Isan Yami take Vortex Sim Racing's second win of the season in a row, and could really show that this team, yes, they haven't had the season they quite have wanted, but they're still there and they're still one of the favourites.
They are still one of the favourites, but Isan Yami really hasn't got away from Bennett since he passed him, has he? The two of them are still essentially nose to tail.
And I think having that nose to tail racing means that Henry Bennett can save some fuel. He's in a good position at the moment to do some fuel saving in this early stage of the race. And more fuel saving you can do now, the less you need to get to the checkered flag. Less you need to get to the checkered flag. Less time you have to spend on pit lane, because time you spend on pit lane is lost out on the circuit, and the more you spend on pit lane, the more times you do lose out on the circuit, of course, and that can really harm your race, especially when something like this, where it's very close up at the front, you can get affected so easily in the pit lane, and just one mistake, missing your pit stop or pit box, for example, and you've lost 2 or 3 seconds there and then.
Yes, but the question question is, can he actually make a full second? Sorry, a full lap more? It's going to be very difficult because, of course, this is a very high-speed track. You wind up the engine so much for a lot of this track because it is so fast. The question is, can you really get another lap's worth of fuel out of it? It's going to be tricky, I feel. But we're just going to have to see. Is this Nyemi and Bennett as we're riding on board with Bennett now coming round turn 7. Now heading towards the, well, along the fast, well, I wouldn't say back straight because nothing really here at Phillip Island is straight. But this back section at least coming down towards Lukey Heights and what I regard as the most difficult corner in the track, that downhill-ish right-handed hairpin, this one that they're going through at the moment.
And that downhill right hairpin has been known to catch drivers out. It's caught me out a couple of times as well. You do have to be very careful with that corner because that corner it's just so easy to slip up and you get the balance of the car wrong. Of course, the in-car adjustments you probably won't want to be messing around with on a road course in these IndyCars with the weight jackers and the anti-roll bars. But maybe with the tyre pressures, even if you get the tyre pressures wrong by just one or two kilopascals, and, well, very easily into a spin. You get that brake bias wrong as Timo Nyemi has a little bit of a slide through turn number 2. All is under control for the Finn. The flying Finn at the moment. He's out 2 positions away. He started another flying Finn in this fact. Is the number 77 who started down in 21st. He's now in 7th. Joni Kajanen. What a charge he's had so far today, Neil.
Yeah, Kajanen absolutely charging through the pack. As you said, currently in 7th place in that 77 car. So of the 7s at the moment, but it looks like he's got quite a bit of a gap to the car ahead of him. The one in 6th place, you certainly can't see him in the distance. So he's just going to have to keep on putting those laps in and hope that he can catch the car ahead at some point in the near future. Randy Shoemake in the number 3 car. That gap at the moment, almost 10 seconds, make it 9.
And while we were talking about the driver of Joni Kajanen, we have had an incident through turn number 1. It's caught its first victim. Andrew Aitken and the driver of Sam Winton have both come together. Andrew Aitken 2 laps down. Sam Winton trying to get past that lap traffic as they headed through turn number 1. Just looks as though Sam Winton wasn't expecting Andrew Aitken to be on the inside. Very slight contact. And around they went. Replay up on your screen. You can see riding on board with the number 17 of Sam Winton. I believe there we go. There's the driver on the inside. You just see him creep into your view. And around Winton goes. A very easy mistake to make. There was a car on the grass. Avoiding that one. Good driving by whoever that was. There you go. Just getting out on the grass on the outside. Very easy to bite. Wow. The avoidance of the car on the grass. I believe that's Johnny Guerretta is in the 68. That is some very skilled driving from the Californian.
Oh, you saw it on board there by Garrett. Essentially almost instant reaction times, a little bit of code brown for everyone involved there. But indeed a fantastic job there by the driver of the 68 to avoid that 17 that was stopped perpendicular in the middle of the track on the racing line on the exit of turn 1, the fastest corner on the track. As you can see, Grossa and Laville on screen now. The battle for 4th, 6.5 tenths separate the two of them, but of course that gap comes further down and down as Laville has that slipstream from Grossa. That
long front straight, meaning that he can use the slipstream to his advantage, getting a little bit wide out of turn number 1 into turn number 2 is Laville. The Frenchman getting one wheel on the grass, lucky to hold it together. We've already seen one driver showing that the grass is very slippery on the outside here at Phillip Island. Matt Cook, he is on a charge at the moment. He set up the fastest lap on the race 2 laps ago. He did a 14.330. He's just at a 14.172. He is at least 3 tenths faster than any driver out on the track. And he is responding to Timo Nyemi and Henry Bennett trying to chase him down with absolutely blistering purple times. He is chasing those purple times. He is chasing that final win of the season.
It's not that fast, is it? No, it's just like what, 8 tenths of his qualifying time? Yeah, nothing at all really. But as we're on lap 17 now, expecting the first pit stop soon, perhaps, for those who have decided to go for a short first stint. We've got to wait another 8 or 9 laps for those who have decided to go the full length of stint 1. But you can see Bennett now, Nyemi has certainly got a little bit away here.
Timo Nyemi has indeed got away on that last lap. He's now out of draft range, or major draft range, for the driver of Henry Bennett. Bennett must have had a slow lap last time around. He did. It was half a second slower, even more, 0.6 of a second slower than Timo Yami. So Henry Bennett hitting a little bit of trouble. And for Yami, this plays into his hands a little bit more because he no longer has to worry about what's behind. He can worry about what's ahead. But for Henry Bennett, maybe he's showing that either something isn't quite right or his tyres are dropping off the cliff. Because also, do not forget, it's a warm track here today, 38 degrees Celsius. These tyres are actually going to really suffer today in the latter stages of these stints.
Oh yeah, if I remember correctly, I was watching one of the broadcasts when the supercars visited here when they had the 500-kilometre race here, and I think, if memory serves me correctly, somewhere around 70% of the track you are turning at some point. You know, these tyres really take a battering round here at Phillip Island, mainly because there's just so many curves. But yes, I think it's somewhere between 65 and 70% of the lap you're turning that car.
Well, it certainly isn't as bad as the tarmac that was laid down on the circuit when it was first built back in the late 60s, I believe. They had a few issues getting hot bitumen to the circuit, so they laid it with cold bitumen and it just ripped tyres apart, ripped itself apart actually. It was the only racing circuit in the world that has ever been known as the self-destructing racing circuit, so much so they had to close it until they had the infrastructure to get the right kind of tarmac over. Currently looking at the number 33, Timo Yami heading himself through Honda Corner up to Siberia for the 19th time in this event. And he has pulled out. His gap between himself and Henry Bennett is just over a second. Last round, they basically matched each other on lap times, both setting a 14.6. So maybe it's a case that they don't want to battle at this stage of the race. They want to leave it to later on. They're just playing it safe as they head towards the midway stage of this event.
Yeah, just playing it safe. We've got the first third almost over of this race. You know, everyone's really got most of the positions that you can get from everyone being packed together. So now it really depends on strategy and pure speed. Perhaps just playing the long game till the final few laps of this race. But with you saying about the very high tyre degradation, memory serves me correctly, a few years ago in the MotoGP series, they had to have mandatory pit stops, didn't they, because of the tyre wear?
I believe so. I can't remember. I sort of stopped following MotoGP in the early 2010s. Looking at the battle for fourth position between Robert Grosser and Lucas Laville. This has closed right up to 0.2 of a second. This is your closest battle out on track at this moment in time as they head themselves down to Honda Corner. Laville is not going to challenge. Grosser going deep, but Laville following, so they're both making the same mistake, the German and the Frenchman. The number 1 and the number 2, of course, Lucas Laville was runner-up last year in the Classic IndyCar Series. This year, currently in the points, he is sitting down in 8th position, so he has had a year to forget as Lucas Laville, hoping to come back next year far, far stronger. And it's these two drivers who actually bring you this series, ladies and gentlemen. These are the organisers of the Classic IndyCar Series, and from the broadcasters, and I'm sure from every single driver, they will appreciate the work they put in 12 months of the year to make sure this goes ahead and runs smoothly. And it always comes out well as they head themselves through Swan Corner for the 21st time. It just looks as though that lap around in the final section of that lap, Robert Grosser had a far, far better run, because he's managed to pull the gap out now to 0.8 of a second.
Yeah, 3.5 tenths faster that previous lap was gross. But yes, definitely by the looks of it, that number 1 car far faster in that second half of the lap compared to the 2. And of course, what you said was interesting, Laville being second, the runner-up to the championship last time, is that first and second from last year have only had 1 win between them from 11.
I can't remember if Lucas Laville got a win last year. I think he might have had 1 or 2. I know Robert Grosser had a number of wins last year, but the competition has been so much stronger this year. Matt Cook returning to IndyCar racing after a bit of a break here on the iRacing service, and the likes of Henry Bennett really starting to find his feet in these vehicles. It just shows that IndyCar racing is, once you get your head around it, you can be so fast with the running. I know for a fact that Matt Cook and Henry Bennett, the likes also Robert Grosser and Lucas Laville, don't really do much other in iRacing other than IndyCars, so they know these cars inside out, and they have been driving them for donkey's years, back to the days when our very own Will Vincent was racing in IndyCars. And for those of you who've been around on the iRacing service for a long time, you will know that that is quite a number of years ago. There's the driver of Matt Cook once again setting purple times of 1 minute 14.113 is the driver of Robert Grosser has spun through turn number 2. He just looks as though he lost the rear end very, very loosely. The rear tyres running on board with him now. It's a very simple slide. Looks like an off-throttle slide. Could be a differential issue. Just down the gears he goes, and it snaps out. Robert Grosser into the kitty litter on the outside. He's back going again, but he has dropped down the field severely. He is now down to 5th position here today, and almost left into the clutches of Randy Shoemake. Another replay up for you, and it just snaps. That's a weird incident there, actually, for the driver of Robert Grosser. It's not something you see very often, whether it's a mistake, whether it's a setup. Could make him nervous for the rest of this race. 46 laps remaining in this event now. We expect the pit window open for everyone. Clearly drivers thinking that the shorter first stint is not the strategy to go for. Everyone going long on this first time. Currently coming onto lap number 23 for the driver of Henry Bennett, who's back within a second of Timo Yami now. And for Timo Yami, these pit stops are going to be very crucial, because if he just makes one mistake on pit entry, misses his pit box, it could be a case of Henry Bennett gets back through for second and maybe get a couple of seconds of advantage and gets himself a bit of breathing space into the second stint.
Yes, this pit road is so difficult as well, because it is flat out all the way around until you start braking for that pit speed limiter line. Of course, it's so painful. It's so painful when you're trundling along 80, 100 kilometers an hour, then everyone else is flying past at 280. So it's so painful. You really want to have as little time in the pits as possible.
The more time you spend on pit road, the less you'll spend out on the circuit. Battle between these two drivers, it has closed down even more on this lap. The battle, or the gap now, just 0.4 of a second. They round themselves through turn number 11. The driver of Timo Yami sticks left. He's going to be the first of your drivers to dive down to the pit lane after 23 laps. So a shorter stint, maybe going for a bit of a shorter fuel. That could be why he was driving so fast. The driver of Mike Gerlich has also been down to pit road. He's come back out into position number 16. Still riding on wall with the number 33. He's going to find his pit box towards the end. To a halt he comes. The car going to go up onto the jack, the fuel nozzle in, refuel, full tank of fuel, 4 new tyres, and he will be back out and away in around 10.7 seconds. His pit stop time, he's out and away, and back off the speed limiter he can go. He's going to take that pit exit. Pit exit, actually, I'm going to mention this while I remember. It's a very tricky pit exit here at Phillip Island. You do have that secondary one off to the left, but it means that you're joining the traffic into the turn-in for turn number 1. But if you're sitting on the racing line coming down the main straight and someone comes out of the main pit exit, then you've got to have very quick reactions to avoid the driver that could have potentially just cut in front of you.
Yeah, it's certainly not a well thought out pit exit, is it? Just straight onto the racing line along the start-finish straight, it's fine, but there we go. There was a 10.7 second stop, as he said, for Isan Yeme. What's very interesting is he came in on lap 23, which means he could well be splitting this race into perfect thirds.
That is a very good point. I didn't think of it that way. I mean, obviously, this is the sprint strategy we see in the Classic IndyCar series. This is another factor that really does make this series interesting, is the strategy, especially when we get to the ovals. We have the cautions and also the problem with the time limit, because it is known for us to hit the time limit on the ovals. But regularly, obviously, the cautions do slow us down, as you're currently looking at the driver of Timo Yami. This is the number 33. He cycled himself out of the pit lane in position number 7 in front of his teammate of Jan Hoffman. So Vortex Sim Racing currently 3rd, 4th, 6th, 7th, 8th.
Not bad, really, is it, for Vortex? Of course, the team that they're trying to beat is the Power Slide Classic Motorsports. And there you have Bennett, and I'm trying to have a look at who their second driver is here today. I'm not exactly sure. Perhaps you know, but Bennett is certainly one of their drivers currently up in that podium position.
The other driver from Power Slide Classic Motorsports that I can see high up in the standings is the driver of Andrew Wood. He's at 11th in the standings, currently running down in, I'm trying to find him on my screen, I believe he hasn't had a great day today. He might not even be here. I don't think he is. Henry Bennett now
I don't think he was,
has found the pit lane. So Henry Bennett is down onto pit lane. So is your leader of Matt Cook. But Lucas Laville going for a full 26-lap stint. He stays out. He's actually going to psych himself through to the lead. That's an extra point for Lucas Laville in the championship. Because, of course, you get a point in this series for leading a race or leading a lap in a race. Just a recognition to say, I've done that. Robert Grosser down onto pit lane. Yoni Kylan down onto pit lane. Randy Shoemake, he stays out. He's going to move himself up into 4th. He is going as long as possible on this first stint.
Yeah, going as long as possible, trying to do another lap. Very interesting to see if he has enough fuel to make it back. But you can see Henry Bennett in the 0007 there making his way around turn 2 after making his stop. But yes, it appears to have gone fairly smoothly, these first pit stops, at least this first round. Haven't seen anyone losing control coming into the pits, which of course it is so easy to do because you're braking incredibly hard and turning at the same time to make it into the pits in time.
I can remember a round of the 2K Skip Barber World Cup, which of course is coming your way in around an hour and a half here on the iRacing Esports Network. And the drivers really found the pit entry here hard. Your leader, Lucas Laville, of the number 2 machine, the Frenchman, is down onto the pit lane. We're riding on board with him on his roll bar, that famous roll bar shot that we are so familiar with in single-seaters. He's up on the jacks getting new tyres and a full tank of fuel. He's going to be back out, cycle back out somewhere. So the driver of Matt Cook, you can see actually he's just gone through on the top corner of your screen. That was Cook retaking the lead. Laville has got out again going, and I have a feeling Henry Bennett has got out ahead of him. I think he might have just lost out for Timo Sinyemi. He has. So Lucas Laville cycles out in 4th in that number 2 machine.
Nicholas back in 4th, but you can just see Sinyemi ahead. At least I believe that is the car ahead of him. You can see there's a big twitches. 2 big twitches coming through turn 2 that time round.
And that is the cold tyres for you, ladies and gentlemen. That is your first experience of cold tyre death wiggle in this event. And it does show that you have to be very careful. If anyone watched Petit Le Mans yesterday, you'll notice that the drivers come out of pit lane and they were babying the cars through the S's. There was prototypes going up the inside of other prototypes, a move that would be nigh on impossible in full green flag racing and your tyres out to temperature. On cold tyres, Road Atlanta, it's like driving on an ice rink. And Phillip Island is like Road Atlanta with the elevation changes and the tight corners and the really difficult fast corners as well. So we could see a few cold tyre incidents here today, Neil, and that could play into the result in this race very heavily, because as soon as you spin here, you might be waiting a while to rejoin the track because of the traffic of the other drivers.
Yes, it was exactly the same when I've been watching the DTM from Hockenheim this weekend as well. Exactly the same. The first lap and a half, the drivers were really babying their way around because they had to bring their tyres up to temperature gradually. Again, not exactly, well, you don't have to bring them up to temperature gradually here. You are okay to almost go flat out immediately, but you've just got to be careful, especially around turn 2, because it is a corner where your car is right on the limit of adhesion. Certainly doesn't help when you haven't got that much grip.
And well, ladies and gentlemen, the first round of pit stops is over with. We are going to take you to some RaceSpot TV fan immersion so you can experience for the final time this season the sounds of this beautiful Dallara IndyCar, riding on board with your leader, riding on board with Matt Cook, and riding on board with him managing some of the traffic that you're going to see here today. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to RaceSpot TV, to the final round of the Classic IndyCar Series, and to Phillip Island on the iRacing Esports Network. You have just been riding on board with Matt Cook, currently second place in the championship, leading this race in that Aero X number 46 machine with 38 laps remaining. Jack Stiles alongside Neil Heatley bringing you those final 38 laps of action. And Neil, so far, pretty tame race, and it's all about now this pit strategy and everyone trying to get the pit strategy spot on.
Yeah, it's all about who going to do what. You can see Matt Cook, he went full legs on the first stint. Question is, will he go a bit shorter in the second? Of course, 16 laps is the shortest you can go in a stint to make it to the end on 2 stops, which means, by my calculations, if you can come back in by lap 42 and make it to the end of the race.
I would probably say we'll see our lead drivers pitting at the end of a full second stint, so they have the freshest tyres possible for the final run to the flag. Battle currently on your screen is between Joni Kynan and Randy Shoemake for position number 6, currently separated by 0.2 of a second. Kynan in the draft as he heads himself down into Honda corner. He's looking to the inside. Shoemake going to lock up those front wheels. A little bit of tyre smoke coming off of the number 3, and he's holding position for now as they head themselves through Siberia, through 7, through 8, and up towards Lukey Heights, over the brow of the hill. This could be where Joni Kynan's got an opportunity if he can get himself side by side into 10 as they head themselves up the hill through Lukey Heights. The Finn still looking, the Shoemake, the Texan, still defending. Down the hill they go, hard on the brakes, scrubbing off all that speed. You can see the front right tyre gets up into the air, locks itself up. That could cause a couple of issues with flat spotting, heading themselves up for 11 and 12. This is where the draft is going to be important. Those two currently separated by a time gap of 0.3 of a second. Kynan tucking into the draft to Shoemake. Shoemake's got the right line though. He's got the outside line because he's now got the inside line for turn number 2. Kynan's not going to be close enough through turn number 1. He's bouncing on the rev limiter at 270 kilometers an hour as he turns right. Hard on the brakes for the left-hander. And it just shows, well, you might be close enough and you might have the draft deal, but he wasn't close enough that time. Is he going to be close enough this time through Honda corner? I'm not sure, but he is looking. He's looking to the outside. Randy Shoemake going to hold that inside line through. But Joni Kynan inside for Honda corner. I think he might have got the move done. Can Shoemake get the undercut? Not sure if he can. Kynan's up to 6th.
Yep, Kynan up to 6th, a lovely move there, but it's something that you said, bouncing off that limiter. The question is, when these drivers have been setting up these cars, for that final gear, do they go for something where they can use full length of the gear while they're in the draft, or do they go for something where they can use the full length of the gear when they're running by themselves? It's a very interesting decision what these drivers have tried to do, at least.
Yeah, and it's a very, very interesting way of doing it, and I think it's something that will need to be looked at. Look at this, Joni Kynan already 0.7 of a second advantage over Randy Shoemake. The driver who's up 15 positions, card rejoining from the left. That is the driver of Hans Pitkanen down in 18th position. Hans is really having a bad day. We usually see him at the tail end of the top 10, fighting in the impact. Today, he's having a disaster of a final race of his 2018 campaign.
Yep, certainly not going according to plan. Of course, everyone wants to finish off the season with a win. Not currently happening though for him.
No, indeed. Still looking at the number 77. Another battle out on track is between the driver Christian Richter and Carson Brodby. This is for position number 10 in this event. Currently separated by 0.8 of a second. But last time around, Richter was far quicker than Carson Brodby, so this could have been something that's already happened. We have missed it, and the driver Richter is trying to just pull a gap. Not sure though, because Carson Brodby just managed to bring the gap back to 0.6 of a second. Other than that, most of the field, they've spread themselves out now. It's all about strategy and it's all about traffic management. As actually, speaking of traffic, there's a little bit now breaking up this battle as well.
Yeah, just a little bit as he comes through Lukey Heights and down towards turn in 35 are not being able to get past the track this time round.
And actually, that wasn't traffic. That was Klaus Peterson in the number 96. When they crossed the line last time around, he was 9th. They've crossed the line again. He's 11th. So the 96 having a very slow lap that time around. A 1 minute 21.5. I reckon he's had a spin or something has gone wrong on that car. I'm not really too sure, though. My time screen should update in just a couple of moments to show that those drivers have managed to get themselves ahead. So actually, no, Klaus Peterson, sorry, he's down into 10th as they head on to lap number 34 of this event. Through Honda corner they go. Henry Bennett has managed to get his way past Timo Siniemi. Nope, that's a battle that's not going on at all. My timing screens are having a bit of a moment. So we are still looking at the driver, Klaus Peterson. Peterson down 1. Christian Richter, name that's not familiar to me in the Classic IndyCar Series in the 64. Looking back from his car now, back end of the mid-back, not a bad place to be.
Yeah, certainly not a bad place to be. That 64 car representing the... oh, as you can have a look there, Peterson, how did he save that? Oh, no, he hasn't. He's gone off on the track on the right-hand side. He might have dinged that.
I am not too sure. It's actually heading down through. That was turn number 10. That was where we said the drivers may have an issue. And then he hit the 9,000 RPM kill switch. Very slight touch with that right-hand side wall at Phillip. Another replay up on your screen. Peterson is back underway again, but he's down in 13th position now. Heading himself through 10. Just gets the car sideways. Gets back on the power. Bit of it too much revs. Around he goes and into the wall. That's going to break up that battle. As well, back to live pictures we go, looking at Sam Winton. Battle between himself and Niall McBride. The two UK and I drivers going to be going head-to-head for position number 16.
Yeah, going head-to-head for 16th, coming down towards the start-finish line now. And of course, Winton will have the draft of McBride. But I must say, that was a very, very nice slide. Power slide round the turn 10 hairpin from Peterson. Didn't manage to quite catch it, though. But an absolutely beautiful way to go around. Not necessarily fastest, though. As we're having a look at McBride and Winton now, the 41 versus the 17s. They come through turn 3, downhill, sweeping downhill to the left hand corner. Looking hard for Honda in that turn 5.
And it just looks as though the driver of Winton locked up his front inside wheel. It's something we've been seeing drivers do all day long, and it's something very simple to do here on these corners. We are now past the halfway stage of the final round of the Classic IndyCar Series. 36 laps down, 32 to go in this event. So we are approaching those final moments, and it is going to be a very important final few moments for these drivers. Matt Cook still leading this race up at the front in position number 1. He's got a 7-second lead over the driver of Henry Bennett, and Timo Siniemi another 3 seconds behind. Lucas Seville in 4th and Robert Grosser in 5th. Yoni Kine in 6th, Randy Shoemake in 7th, and Jon Hoffman in 8th, all covered by 45.6 seconds. That is your top 8 as it stands heading into the second half of this event. And actually, speaking of a logical vortex car, there is Robert Grosser in 5th position, heading himself up the inside of Sam Winton, and that's going to break up the battle between himself and Niall McBride. So Sam Winton's got that time all to make up once again.
Yeah, trying to make that time back up once again. And you know, it depends when you catch the traffic. It also depends, because I believe that they're both a lap down now. It also depends when the leaders are going to, well, when the top 5, top 7 or so are actually going to come back round and catch them again, because of course they'll be showing the blue flags then. So it depends when they're caught by the leaders as well.
Well, I clearly am going to speak my own words here, but Sam Winton has got past Niall McBride. McBride had an awful run down the back straight into Honda corner, and Sam Winton just snuck it down the inside. Thank you very much. Off goes Niall McBride through Lukey Heights. Keeps it together all for turn number 10. Very good driving by the number 41 machine, and he's going to get himself back going again. But for Niall, that was an awful run through that lap, because it's not only let Sam Winton gain back that 2.25 that he lost, but it's now let him get away by the same amount. So Sam Winton doing well to get himself back up to 16th. This is the driver of Francesco Stum, who's managed to get past Carson Brodby by the looks of it for 10th position.
This managed to get up in that top 10 score. To get that top 10 beside you game on the last race of the season. Very, very helpful.
As Niall McBride has also spun, he's had himself into the wall. Very hard hit for the number 41 machine. Coming through Honda corner that time. We can see him on pit lane. Replay up on your screen. So he says he's heading around through the turn number 2 complex. Down the straight he heads in the number 41 machine. Through the left-hander. You can just see as he heads himself into Honda on the brakes. Everything looking normal. Everything looking normal. Hits the apex. But actually a very good run through the corner. Just that 9,000 RPM kill switch. It's hitting it again. These drivers have got to remember the high rev ranges in the lower gears. These cars will bite, and they will bite hard. So difficult, especially in these very high-powered cars, where that weight to horsepower ratio is very high as well, or I should say horsepower to weight ratio is very high as well. These lower gears are absolutely treacherous. And of course you can see that, you really have to feather that throttle, you really have to be careful with it, you really have to baby it. We're seeing perhaps a couple of these drivers as we get towards the second half of this race starting to struggle with that a little bit. And it's the baby in the car that these drivers really have to get their head around. Currently running on board with the number 31 and Mike Gerlicke in 15th position. He is just 0.75, of a second behind the driver of Jos van der Ven. Jos van der Ven he's someone who we know from the 60 Plus Racing Adventure series that we cover here on RaceSpot TV. That's returning for their 6th week of their season next week out. You do not want to miss that. Always provides great racing in the Pro Master series. Jos van der Ven, he was a lifetime bus driver. He'd never driven a race car before, yet he is always one of the fastest drivers out on track in some of these series and always puts on a good show. He knows what he's doing. A professional driver turning into a professional sim racer.
Yes, I certainly hope he didn't drive the bus this way. I think it'd be slightly disturbing, but yes, it just goes to show that it doesn't matter what you do, even if you do professional, leisurely driving, if you like, in real life, it can sometimes relate back to the track.
And it's that relating back to the track which really does help some of these drivers. For a fact that since I've started driving in the real world, it really helped me with sim racing. Looking through your field, there is also a battle currently going on for position number 10. That is between the driver of Carsten Brobbey, Franz-Josef Sturm, and I think that one might be side by side. It is side by side heading into turn number 2. Carsten Brobbey shoves it down the inside of Franz-Josef Sturm, shuts the door on the exit, so Sturm has to get a really bad run off the corner, can't do anything about it, and Carsten Brobbey now holding the inside line. He is doing a very good job to defend. That number 35 machine is almost the same width as this circuit, meaning that Sturm cannot get past.
A fantastic defending job there, and of course defending is possibly one of the most important things you can do in these cars. You need to do it cleanly. It kind of helps around here at Phillip Island, like as I said, you're turning for so much of the time, there really isn't that many straights for you to make a good pass on, be it in the draft or under the brake.
And the draft is obviously the easiest way to get past into turn number 1 and 2. Also, you brakes into Honda corner turn number 4 at the end of the long second, not really straight. And it just looks as though the driver of Franz-Josef Sturm and Carsten Brobbey, those two fighting, has brought Johnny Garrett, who's back in 12th, into this battle. So we now have got a three-way battle. Sturm, he's looking to the inside, looking left, looking right, going right on the inside into turn number 1. Carsten Brobbey's got nothing to answer for on the outside. Through goes Franz-Josef Sturm, but the dive at the inside from Carsten Brobbey. He takes himself back up into that position, and Sturm, he heads out onto the outside of the circuit, running off the track. And I believe there may have been a little bit of phantom contact between the two. Not quite sure, but that was an absolutely storming dive from Carsten Brobbey. Almost maybe a little bit too ambitious.
Yes, of course. You can't beat a nice little lunge, can you? And of course, coming into this last race of the season, you really want to get the best result possible. A little bit too much, perhaps, but you've always got to try these moves when you have the opportunity.
And the opportunity was clearly taken by the driver of Carsten Brobbey. That means that he keeps 10th. He's still got pressure from behind for the from Johnny Garrett in 11th. Currently looking back from the car of the number 35 to the number 68 of Broadby. You can just see as they head through Swan Corner and down to the main straight. This time around, Garrett will not be close enough to challenge.
Not close enough to challenge this time round. It's going to be, but no doubt he's going to make a challenge soon.
And we just have to wait and see. Heading themselves through turn number 2. Once again, the gap's 0.3 of a second. Looks as though Garrett actually managed to close the gap by a couple of tenths through that run that time. Heading himself down into Honda corner. Garrett to the inside. He's looking. Carsten Brobbey slams the door on the Californian once again. Great defending by the German as they head themselves into Siberia, and it just looks as though the driver of Johnny Garrett is still trying. Heading themselves up through turn 7. Heading themselves up through turn 8. Garrett looks to the inside. That means that Brobbey's got to use an offline strategy through that corner. Through Lukey Heights they go. Brobbey still holding a position. Down the hill into 10. Garrett's not close enough. He's still looking. He's still trying in the 68, but wasn't able to make the move. Obviously, Francesco Stum still 3.5 seconds behind this battle, so not involved in this one at the moment. But the driver of Johnny Garrett will be in draft distance and in a good position to try and challenge into turn number 1. Across the line they head to start lap number 43 of this event. As they head themselves into turn number 1. Garrett's not close enough, actually. The draft not strong enough for the 68. Maybe different downforce setups on these cars. Not going to challenge into turn 2. Yes, he is. He has to like avoiding action as Carsten Brobbey locks up. Brobbey gets a bad run off of the corner. Garrett looking to the inside as they head through turn number 3. Carsten Brobbey's on the outside, but he now has the inside for Honda corner for the 43rd time. To the inside he is. Garrett's got to try and get her done around the outside. He cannot get it done. I think this may be the driver of Johnny Garrett's to keep. I don't know. Carsten Brobbey's to keep, but he's still trying through Siberia. Still on the inside line. They're still... Pardon me, still side by side as they head up through 7 and 8, up through Lukey Heights once again, and Brobbey just managing to get himself out. That was a lap of absolute adrenaline rush for both of those drivers there, Neil.
How can you go side by side for that long? Round here. Unbelievable.
It's always a place where if a driver can do it well, they know they can. 25 laps remaining in this event. That means that these drivers can pit now and make sure they get to the end of the race on one more stop. So one more stop separates these drivers and the final checkered flag of the 2018 campaign. And look who's behind this battle. It is the one, the only, Mr. Matt Cook. Still in the lead of this race by 7 seconds over Henry Bennett. In fact, actually, that gap hasn't really come out. It's sort of flatlined at about 7-8 seconds for the last few laps, Neil. For the last sort of 10-15 laps, as Garrett once again looking to the inside of Broadby.
Just looking up towards the inside again, but yes, you said it's stagnated at 7 or 8 seconds. Perhaps it's just controlling the pace of the race now.
As Robert Grosser from 5th position has brought himself down onto the pit lane to make his final stop. So he's going for a shorter middle stint as opposed to the shorter end stint. He's back out and away, 11.5 second stop for the German. So his final pit stop, or final planned pit stop anyway, of 2018 is now complete, and he rejoins the track in 6th position, just ahead, down in 8th position, just ahead of the driver of Christian Richter by about 7 seconds. Of course, expect to see everyone else down onto the lane. The only bad thing that I can think of that will come out of Robert Grosser's strategy call that he's made is that he is now going to have to take these tyres all the way to the end, which means that they are going to be more worn than anyone else out on the circuit by the checkered flag.
Yes, but perhaps it could just be a couple of laps, although we just need to see now. And once you get to a couple of laps, it's really not that bad. But once you get towards 6 or 7 laps different, especially seeing the whole stint, there's 26 laps here. Once you start to get towards that 20-12 mark of a stint, you'll really feel that difference.
And it's the difference that he will not want to feel. Still eyes on the German as he heads himself through turn number 10. That number 1 machine after today. He won't be wearing it on the Classic IndyCar Series. Going back to the battle for 10th position into Lukey Heights. Johnny Gueret was looking. Carson Brofby still firmly has the door shut. However hard Johnny Gueret tries to push it open, he cannot get it open. And for Carson Brofby, the defending is also mean that Klaus Peterson is now involved in this battle. So we've got a three-way battle for 10th position. And it just shows that you can lose a lot of time while defending, heading out onto outer Swan Corner, onto the main straight. Under the bridge they go. You've got Johnny Gueret looking to the outside. Hadn't got enough momentum. I think he might do now. Side by side, they're going to go into turn number 1 for the 46th time. And has he got the move done? No, he hasn't. To the outside. A little bit of dirt on the track. And that means that's going to go onto his tyres. He's offline through turn number 2. Maybe a little bit of contact between the two as they head themselves out of turn number 2. Down towards turn number 3. Gueret's still on the draft. He's still looking, trying to get around the outside. Or down the inside he goes. Very late bragging from Johnny Gueret. He goes deep into the corner. He drops down to 12th. And even further down after that. And he has to stop to let some traffic through so he can rejoin the track safely. Replay up on your screen now. You can see Gueret looks to the left. Stays a little bit wider through 3. And very late on the brakes. He was never going to make the corner. Ever. Not a chance.
Not with that attitude. No, it certainly looks like that he broke far too late for that right-hand hairpin. Of course, one of the best passing places here. Of course, it's kind of difficult to pass here. You've got the front straight between turns 12 and 1. You've really got turn 4, and those two are really the only overtaking opportunities here at Phillip Island. So you've got to take the opportunities while you can.
And if you don't take those opportunities, you will very quickly lose them. Gueret actually now pits, so he's going to make his final pit stop of the race. So does Henry Bennett. So Henry Bennett, the championship winner for 2018. I will keep repeating that until the end of the season. He's down onto the pit lane this time. He's found his pit stall. So is Johnny Gueret. To a stop he comes. He's going to go up on the jacks. You can see Henry Bennett just ahead, down on the jacks now. He's going to get himself away after the fuel nozzle is out. It's out. It's away. Henry Bennett is back onto the track. His final pit stop of 2018 is complete. So is Johnny Gueret. The final 20-lap run to the flag is coming your way here on Racesport TV and on the iRacing Esports Network. You do not want to go anywhere. But of course, in the next 5-10 minutes, you can tune over to the finale of the McLaren Shadow Project for the GT3 cars. Will Vincent will be bringing you all of the action from there. But of course, you know you want to stick with us for the final 20 laps of the Classic IndyCar Series of 2018. And it just is going to round off an absolutely amazing season. And the racing is not going to slip up just yet. Still a lot more action coming your way. Klaus Peterson, Carson Brofby, the battle for 9th position, heading themselves down the main straight. They're weaving left, weaving right, trying to break the draft. Peterson to the inside into turn number 1. Brofby's going to be left out to dry on the outside. And if Peterson can close the door into 2, get on the brakes, well, he has. He's going to pull away from Brofby. Brofby's going to be a bit slower to the apex. And he's got a bad run off the corner. Behind is Jan Hoffman, waiting to pick up the pieces for Logical Vortex Sim Racing, a driver who also joined Vortex midway through 2018. He looks to the inside into Honda corner. Not going to go for the lines that Johnny Gueret tried, but he's going to try and maybe get it on the exit. Very close to contact between the two drivers heading into Siberia. Still line astern as Carson Brofby maybe makes a mistake on the exit. Jan Hoffman to the outside into turn number 7, into turn number 8. And I think for Jan Hoffman, has he got the move done? Not sure he has as they head through Lukey Heights. They're going to stay side by side. Carson Brofby going to jump out that one as quickly as possible, and it drops himself down to 11th position. So in one lap, Peterson has gone from 9th to 11th.
Yes, from 9th to 11th in one lap. It just goes to show when these cars are so close together, when these drivers are so close together, one mistake, and that's you dropped out of the top 10, in this case from 9th to 11th. But yes, as you said, just waiting behind there, waiting to pick up the pieces, and that's exactly what happened.
As we see more cars down onto the pit lane, looks as though both Klaus Peterson and Franz-Josef Sturm, the two teammates, have brought themselves onto the pit lane at the same time. That shows that they have been using the same strategy all day long. They are going to be up on the jacks, down on the jacks, and away for the final time in 2018. Matt Cook, Lucas Laville, Joni Kajanen, Randy Shoemake, the drivers from your top 5 who haven't pitted yet, expect them down onto the pit lane in the next few laps. because they're getting close to the 26 lap marker on the fuel that we have here today at Phillip Island. As soon as you hit that, you do not want to go any further because you risk running dry. Not something you certainly want to do here.
Yes, 52 laps is about the farthest we think he can do. Of course, Levine went 1 lap longer in the first stint, didn't he? So he can maybe stretch it to 53, perhaps 54 if he was very lucky.
And well, Matt Cook is down onto the pit lane, so your leader pits from the lead and just over the hour mark in this event with 18 laps remaining for the final run into the checkered flag. He's going to come to a stop. He's going to be put up on the jacks. He's going to get 4 new boots. He's going to get enough fuel to get into the end. Won't need a full tank here at Phillip Island. You can hear his engine notes rising. He's going to get away. Final pit stop for Matt Cook is now completed in 2018. Lucas Laville has just sneaked through to get himself into the race lead for at least 1 lap until he has himself down to the pit lane. Jori Kajanen in the 77 has also paid us a visit to the pit lane. So for Kajanen, his final pit stop is also now happening. But for Kajanen,
oh, the two's gone off. The two's gone off.
And Lucas Laville hitting problems through turn number 2. That just looked like a very easy spin for the number 2. Very easy mistake to make. In very similar fashion to how Robert Grosser had the issues through turn number 2. Hopefully we'll get a replay up on your screens for you, ladies and gentlemen, as we are indeed going to now. Riding on board with the number 2. Through turn number 1 he goes. Nice and easy for him. Turn left into turn number 2. Maybe takes a little bit too much curb. He maybe did. That spits the rear end round. It wasn't as sudden as Robert Grosser's spin, must be said, Neil, but it's still in the same corner, which maybe says something. Has the logical vortex setup that all these drivers are using, the base setup for these drivers, has it got a fundamental flaw with turn number 2? As in, it's not liking it.
Well, perhaps Levine is at the very, very end of his stint, so perhaps it's wearing those tyres a little bit more than everyone else, and that's causing him to lose grip round to turn 2, because of course it is a very fast corner. These cars right on the edge of the lateral load that they can provide. So perhaps these logical setups are slightly harder on the tyres than everyone else.
Of course, Logical Vortex, or Logical Innovative Engineering, is the title sponsor for the 2018 Classic IndyCar Series. Logical Innovative Engineering provides sturdy and reliable resources for motion simulators for sim racing enthusiasts. For more information, check out their website, give them a Google search, and find out what they're all about. Another partner to the 2018 Classic IndyCar Series, returning again for this year, is Joel Real Timing. Joel Real Timing provides timing solutions for every single iRacer, and it's an app that they should have in their repository. Today, the driver with the least incident points at the end of the race will win a key, a professional key to Joel Real Timing. It costs €15, and it's something that I recommend every driver go out and purchase. I personally have it. I'm using it for my timing screens up on your screen. Speaking of timing screens, Johnny Garrett holding off by just under a tenth of a second of Kyle Peterson. Okay, they've just had pit stops, but this is already back to battling this battle. Lucas Laville's down onto the pit lane, but we're going to stick with this for now, as Kyle Peterson having to hold off his teammate of Franz Josef Stum. And this is, Jos van der Ven, sorry. This is a very close battle between these drivers, because we know that Johnny Garrett, okay, he's a good attacker, but we haven't really seen him defending so far today, Neil. So it's going to be interesting to see how he deals with the defending into turn 1. They go around the outside. Goes the driver of Klaus Peterson. So Peterson up into 12th. Van der Ven now looking to maybe get his way up into 13th position past Johnny Garrett. The two teammates can work together and get themselves some more points for the championship. 15 laps remain after this one. 15 laps from the end of the 2018 season.
Yes, 15 laps remain after this one, as you said, but yes, getting a Garrett very, very sad there. He was trying to defend two up.
As Neil is once again having technical difficulties, not his day today. We will get him back as quickly as possible. Still on your screen is this battle. The driver of Klaus Peterson is holding off Johnny Garrett this time. But Johnny Garrett, he can close the gap, I think. He is close enough to be able to close the gap. 0.4 of a second split them. I think for Johnny Garrett, he's got to watch out from behind. 2/10 of a second, 1/10 of a second split him and Jos van der Ven. Van der Ven already to the left-hand side of the track. He's actually going to get past before the curbs even start for turn number 1. Van der Ven gets himself up into 13th. Goret down to 14th now with Jos van der Ven. All of a sudden, he's now trying to challenge his teammate Klaus Petersen because the overspeed of the draft has really aided him into turn number 1. I think that may have just sealed the deal for Johnny Goret down into 14th. Not sure how he's going to respond to that one. It's going to be interesting to see as we head into the final stages. Van der Ven goes round into Honda corner, collects Klaus Petersen, almost ends up on his roll bar. He's back going, but Jos van der Ven, he has damage now to the 167 machine. Very minimal damage because it was a very low contact. But Klaus Petersen's also going to have damage. We're going to get a replay up on your screen now. You can see into the braking zone he goes. A little bit late. The rear brakes lock up. Around he goes. The contact happens. Very lucky actually to stay on 4 wheels there, Neil. Because had he not, that would have been day over for Jos van der Ven.
Yes, contact between teammates there. Not exactly what you want, especially at this point in Van der Ven. Looked like he completely misjudged his braking point for Honda there by a good 30-40 metres.
It's similar to the incident we saw Johnny Goret. It just shows how difficult that corner is to get stopped for. Johnny Goret and Klaus Petersen though into turn number 1. Johnny Goret to the inside. He is trying. He's not going to be close enough. I think just this time around, the driver of Klaus Petersen has managed to hold on.
Just managed to hold on for now after that a vicious assault by his teammates, no doubt. But Garrett, look at this. He's getting closer and closer now along down towards turn 4. That Honda hairpin trying to do the up.
Wow, today really is a Neil Heatley's day. He's really struggling with a couple of things, obviously. So back to this battle. Johnny Goret, he's still there. 0.3 of a second separate himself and Klaus Petersen, heading themselves through turn 10, heading themselves through turn 11. They're going to swan themselves through Swan Corner for the 56th time. And a few laps will be into the final 10 laps of the season. And it's all going to come to an end very quickly here at Phillip Island. Race still led by Matt Cook, but for Johnny Goret, he's trying for 12. He's going to go for the draft. He's got the overspeed. Into turn 1 they go. 270 kilometers an hour through the corner. And the driver of Klaus Petersen, you can see how damaged his front wing is from the contact with Jos van der Ven. And that just invites Johnny Goret through. Goret back into 12th, and he is moving himself back up the order. For him, he's now got 5 seconds ahead to the driver of Franz. That mistake. Still looking at the driver of Franz-Josef Sturm. He has had a couple of issues so far today, just the 2 pit stops, but then he's sitting 11th, he's sitting mid-pack, a good finish. We have got a battle for 4th place. We have got a battle in your top 5. It's been a while since I've been able to say that in this one. Robert Grosser and Lucas Laville, the 2 teammates, are all of a sudden back within a second of one another. Lucas Laville, that issue that he had, it's lost him some time. That has invited Robert Grosser back up to that 4th position. But Neil, we know that Lucas Laville can be faster. Could we see a swap for that 4th position in the remaining 12 laps of this event?
Of course, both of them have had mistakes down around. We've both seen them go off at turn 2, so they've both lost a rough cool amount of time by the look of it, and they're back together again. Grossa and Laville with just about 10 laps to go in this event, just 40 kilometres or so left.
Not long indeed. There's a car off to the right-hand side. That is a pink machine. Is that Franz-Josef Sturm? I think it might be. No, it's not. That is the driver. I believe that maybe even lost Jos van der Ven. So van der Ven having a few issues. He's been left in the clutches of the number 77, Joni Kajanen. But still with this battle, the gap between the two is now 1.116 seconds as we're watching Lucas Laville head himself through turn number 10. taking a lot of that curb on the inside. Through 11 he goes towards 12. We're going to head on to lap number 58 of this event. Really starting to get towards the end stages now. The gap is coming down. Lucas Seville getting a good run off of that final corner there, Neil. He's able to get a good run down. Last time around, Robert Grosser, though, was a 10th of a second quicker than Lucas. So Robert still got it. But Lucas Seville on the much, much fresher tyres. 5 lap stint compared to Robert Grosser's 13. And that just shows that Lucas Seville might have the little bit of raw grip in the twisty sections. 0.8 of a second is now the gap because he is within draft range. Heading himself into Honda corner. Visually, the gap will close. Time-wise, it will not because of the difference in speed through the corners compared to the straights. As it just looks like Robert Grosser, actually, he's getting a good run out of Honda corner. But it looks like Lucas Seville is able to get it back through either the twisty sections or in the long straight sections. Car off to the right hand side is Jonathan Diggs. Robert Grosser, an awful run through Lukey Heights that time because Lucas Seville is now within 0.7 of a second of Robert, heading themselves through 10, heading themselves through 11. Robert Grosser might have to do some defending in the next couple of laps here, Neil.
They're having to do defending in the next couple of laps, but of course front straight is going to
and it just looks like heading themselves through turn number 1 once again. Less than 10 laps remaining now in this event as they head themselves through turn number 2. Lucas Seville is close enough. Grosser with the bad run off the corner. Lucas Seville had to check out just a little bit to make sure he didn't run into the back of his teammate. Side by side through 3 they go. It just looks as though Robert Grosser not going to challenge Seville into 4. So Honda, the number 2 is up into 4th position in turn number 4 with less than 10 laps to go. Robert Grosser not putting up any defense to the Frenchman. So the Frenchman really trying to get as many points as possible because I think Robert Grosser may have finally realised that it is out of the question for him to get that 2nd position in the championship. That is pretty much all but confirmed to Matt Cook because Matt Cook up at the front of the field has had a storming drive. We'll talk about him a little bit more on the final lap because there's not much more to say about him at the moment other than the fact he's had a good drive. We've still got 8 laps remaining in this race. It's going to be about another 10 minutes before we head to the checkered flag and we will be able to officially crown our champion of Henry Bennett. It's been unofficial for the last 3 races, but it can finally be official. Robert Grosser still within just over half a second of Lucas Seville, but I don't think he's going to be wanting to challenge right now because we've still got a fair distance to go, though. You never know. We have got a battle for 10th position going on between Carsten Bromby and Franz-Josef Sturm. Those two are separated by around half a second. This is the battle for 10th position on your screen as Bromby goes wide through Siberia. That allows the driver of Franz-Josef Sturm to pop it up the inside. Through to 10th he'll go. Thank you very much. Top 10 position for the final race will be an absolute charm as they head themselves through Lukey Heights for what will be one of the final times. Joni Kainen. Right, this is going to be an interesting one because he's now within a second of Robert Grosser for 5th position. On your screen now, currently separated by 0.9 of a second. Last time around, he was a second quicker than Grosser. A second. It just shows that this guy is on fire today. He started 21st. He's currently running 6th. Can he get a top 5? I said maybe a top 10. You never know. Might be able to sneak his way into the top 5, take a few more points off of Robert Grosser. Could also play into Plowside's Classic Motorsports hands for the team's championship. Vortex are going to take away a good points haul here today. They have got drivers in 4th, 5th, 8th. They've got a driver in 3rd as well in the former Team Miami, so they should come away with the podium. We've also got Team Hauser not having a great day down in 17th position in the 56th. There's also Dennis Gorisi, who pulled out after the first lap incident that he was involved in. In the background, you can see Joni Kainen. Robert Grosser, though, is back within 6.5 tenths of Lucas Seville. And Lucas Seville is really going to have to do a good job to hold him off because you never know. Robert Grosser might have found something in these final few laps. He is on the more worn tyres, but he can still get past. Joni Kainen has got fresher tyres than Robert Grosser as well. 6 laps fresher than Robert Grosser are Joni Kainen's tyres. And Joni Kainen could indeed jump a bit of a surprise and shake up the race once again. At the end of this lap, we'll have 7 laps remaining in this one. 7 more laps for Phillip Island to go. Riding on board with the driver Joni Kynan. Let's once again take you for one final Race Spot TV fan immersion for the 2018 Classic IndyCar Series. Let's do a lap on board with Joni Kynan. Five and a half laps remain here at Phillip Island, down under in Australia, in Cowes, Australia, for the final time, the final 5 laps of the Classic IndyCar Series for 2018, the final 4 laps for the Classic IndyCar Series in 2018. Joni Kynan has just had a spin. We caught the end of it on the screen. Just looked as though maybe could have been a case of colder tyres, something else. Lucas Laville, why is he showing us 6th on my timing screens? It's because he's had an issue. Lucas Laville has dropped down to 6th from 4th position. That promotes Kynan up into 5th, even though he's just had that spin. So obviously worry away. That's very heavy damage to the number 2. I have a feeling that he has had some contact with the driver. I'm not sure who. Once again, Joni Kynan's got to get himself around TM Hauser. Hauser being very civil, getting himself out of the way in that Logical Vortex Sim Racing machine. Of course, the blue flag rules in the Classic IndyCar Series state that he has to get out of the way. But now, he can sit in the draft and save a little bit more fuel. That 56 does have a little bit of front wing damage to the front left by the looks of it. And obviously, that's not something you want to see as they head themselves through Siberia for what will be one of the final times. Just another 4 laps after this one. No, we're going to get nowhere near the 2-hour time limit that we see in the Classic IndyCar Series. The road courses never really hit them. We do on the ovals quite often because of the cautions. Battle for 11th position between the driver of Johnny Garrett and Carson Bromley. That's not going to last for long because Johnny Garrett's on the grass. Replay up on your screen. We can see him coming out through 10, through 11. Is it the same place as Joni Kynan? It is. It's identical to what's happened to Joni Kynan on that last lap. Just he span the other way. So in these latter stages of the race, the drivers are really struggling with that final section of the course. It is very difficult. You've got to watch that 9,000 RPM kill switch. But we're looking at the driver of Matt Cook, that number 46. He's the oval champion. He's second in the points. He's provisionally going to finish second in the points after the next 3 laps. Matt Cook has had a dominating day up at the front. He got pole. He's led from the start. The only time he's actually lost the lead is because he has had issues. Or not had issues. other people have pitted. It's the only reason why he's ever lost the lead. As soon as people have pitted, he's got it straight back again. So Matt Cook has had nothing to worry about but himself all day. He's had a great season as well. First season back on iRacing. First season in the Classic IndyCar Series. He is Rookie of the Year. He's managed to win that and the Oval Championship. Take multiple wins on the Ovals. He just wasn't there on the road courses in the early stages of the season. And you know what? Had Matt Cook been there on the road side in the early stage of the season, Henry Bennett would have had a serious contender for the championship win. And for Matt Cook, I genuinely believe that next year it will be about that man. He will be going into 2019 as one of the very strong favourites to take away the championship win. For Matt Cook, he is someone you've got to watch in 2019, ladies and gentlemen. Because the Classic IndyCar Series, if you thought it was good this year, it gets better year on year. This is the second year that I've covered this series start to finish, and I can confidently say this is the best it has ever been. The driver of Matt Cook crosses the line to start lap number 67. 2 more laps remain in the 2018 Classic IndyCar Series. What a season it has been. Henry Bennett in second. Let's talk about him for a little bit. He is the season champion. He had his issues at the start of the season at Homestead, Miami, causing the caution. We didn't even get to turn 1 and we had our first caution of the season. And that involved Henry Bennett because he span on the start. I think him and Benjamin Gregory were doing synchronised spinning at one point during that race. But ever since then, he's picked himself up from the bottom. He's got himself going. And he has dominated some of the road races. Been able to take away perfect races, a good haul of points on the ovals as well. He has been unstoppable. If he's had a bad qualifying session, he's been able to get out there and he has been able to work his way back up through the race. For Henry Bennett, he has had a great season. Third place, let's talk about him in the championship as well. That driver is going to be the number 1 of Robert Grossi, currently sitting in 4th in the championship. He came into this season as the defending champion. He had a lot to live up to with some of the drivers that will join in this series for this year. And you know what? Okay, he hasn't had as many wins this season, but he's been consistent. He has been there when he needs to be. And with Silverstone, he showed that, taking the first win of his season. And he has been able today to just have a nice, easy race to take over good points haul. This is going to mean that he is going to be 3rd in the championship. For Matt Cook, he has crossed the line. He's heading through turn number 2. The white flag has flown. We are on to the final lap of the 2018 Classic IndyCar Series. Just half a lap remains now for these drivers. He's got some traffic ahead in the form of Mike Gerlicher down in 15th position. And he is going to be able to deal with them as he heads himself through Siberia for the final time in that Aero Expansive machine. Aero Expansive Power Slide Classic Motorsports, that is the team championship battle that will be confirmed later on. We'll get that confirmed for you during the post-race show. He's going to round himself through Lukey Heights for the final time. Down the hill he goes for the final time into turn number 10. Matt Cook dominated all day. He's got 2 more corners to navigate. He's going to swan himself through turn number 12. He is going to be the winner of the final race in the Classic IndyCar Series, cementing himself as the runner-up, the Rookie of the Year, the Oval Champion. Matt Cook wins at Phillip Island. And across the line he will go. Henry Bennett rounds himself through the final corner. Henry Bennett is confirmed as your 2018 Classic IndyCar champion. The 007 in that bright orange machine. Been unmissable all year. Been unstoppable all year. He is the series champion. He is going to cross the line. Timo Siemi going to bring home another podium for Logical Vortex Sim Racing. It wasn't the win, but you know what? I think that team will take the podium after the year they've had. The Finn bringing it home in 3rd. Mr. 3-time will no longer be the reigning champion of the Classic IndyCar Series. He is going to finish 3rd in the standings. He's going to finish 4th today at the track of Phillip Island. A few more drivers still to come across the line and we'll be able to take you down to your final finishing positions at Phillip Island today. And for the final round of the IndyCar Series for 2018, it is done. It is over. It started all those months ago back in April. We're now in October and it's all done and dusted. The driver of Matt Cook was able to take a 14.8 second advantage over Henry Bennett to take the win for the final rounds in just his 2nd road course race. Timo Siemi taking home 3rd, Robert Grosser in 4th, Yoni Kine in 5th, Randy Shoemake 6th, Lucas DeVille in 7th, Jan Hoffman 8th, Christian Richter 9th, and Franz Josef Stum going to get that final coveted top 10 position. Carsten Brodby in 11th, Johnny Garrett in 12th, Jos van der Ven in 13th, Klaus Bies in 14th, Mike Gallagher 15th, Sam Winton 16th, Jonathan Diggs 17th, 18th is going to be TM Hauser, 19th is going to be Hans Pickman, 20th is going to be Noah McBride, one of the non-finishers today, so with Hans Pickman going to be a non-finisher. Other non-finishers going to be Andrew Aiken, Andrew Adair-Saunders and Dennis Garisa, the 23 cars that took the start. We're going to step aside for a few moments on Racesport TV and the iRacing Esports Network. We'll be back for the final post-race show of 2018 for the Classic IndyCar Series.
To the front bumper, and he hits him again now. Ray Alfala into the outside wall.
He's going to pass nearly 3 cars down that front straightaway, and he's going to get them all done with. What amazing.
Lee to the inside goes Logan Cloudman is going to touch in. Pit press.
Saved it.
What a save.
Looks to the outside as Cronkite goes off. De Jong into second place.
Going for the switchback. Oh, pinpoint driving.
It's howling down to the inside.
Trying this contact though.
Slides left to the racetrack. Chris Venner drives it back down underneath, and he takes that second spot right back. Joker goes to Garrett Lowe.
Garrett Lowe should take victory with all that contact.
He's going to try and make the move around the outside the parabolica. That's not going to work, but he's going to try and get the cut back here. Get the run out the parabolica. That's beautifully done there. Michael Schumacher, there's a little bit of door banging as well.
...2018 goes out with a bang, and Matt Cook was able to make that bang happen. He brings himself down onto victory lane for the final time in 2018, and what a run he had up at the front. But the man that we're going to talk about, man that is going to be named the 2018 Classic IndyCar Series here at, or champion here at Phillip Island, is going to be Henry Bennett, the Brit, the 007. Race results back up on your screen, which of course you can read through if you so wish. The Brit, of course, taking away that storming win at Mid-Ohio that basically confirmed him as the champion. I believe it was one race later that he was able to make sure that he cemented himself there. Not too many drivers have come by for an interview so far today, so we'll give them just a couple more minutes to bring themselves by, see if we can catch up with a few drivers after the final race of the season. If not, we will say goodbye. But of course, it must be said that we need to give a few thanks from the Classic IndyCar Series and give them publicly, and to all the people who have supported the Classic IndyCar Series through 2018. The title sponsor Logical Interventioneering, the Joel Real Timing Contingency, Lionheart Racing Series, Jorge Anzaldo. We spoke to him actually a couple of races ago about what he does with the Lionheart Racing Series. He has created a prize for the overall champion, which Henry Bennett will be receiving. There have been weekly free practice sessions hosted by Andrew Adair-Saunders and Mike Gallagher, providing the drivers with a way of practicing for these events. There are the race stewards that do not sometimes get the recognition they deserve. Martin Nagelkirchen and Christian Manson, and these are obviously besides Lucas Laville and the driver of Robert Grota. John Alzheimer has been providing shout-outs to all of the people, for all of the drivers, and then for all of the drivers, they have made this year a record-breaking year. And at the end of the broadcast, I'm going to give a shout-out to every single Racesport TV commentator who's commentated on this series this year, and it might take me a couple of minutes. But first of all, we're going to catch up with a winner. We're going to catch up with Matt Cook. Matt, and as he will be joining me in just a moment's time.
Apologies.
Matt, first of all, congratulations on being able to take away the win in the final race of the season. A pretty quiet day for you up at the front.
Absolutely, Jack. Ended up getting quite a bit of a gap right at the start of the race and just kind of cruised from there on out.
And of course, that win cements you in second position overall in the points. You've had a pretty good first year in the Classic IndyCar Series. You've got Rookie of the Year. You won the Oval Championship, second overall. Surely next year you've got to be taking that number one point, that number one position away from Henry Bennett.
Well, Henry's a phenomenal driver. Honestly, anything can happen, but I'm definitely going to give it my best effort next year, and hopefully Henry will continue running.
And well, of course, 2019, I'm going to presume you've been back. You'll be back after your 2018 season, and it must feel good knowing that you're going into 2019 with that momentum behind you of this year and such a dominant year that you've had, especially on the oval side of this series.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great way to kickstart my iRacing career again. But more or less, it's just looking forward to it. This was a great season just to kind of get back in the groove and figure things out again. But definitely looking towards next season.
Oh, well, before we let you go and celebrate your win with your team, Matt, who would you like to give a shout out to for the final time this year on RaceSpot TV?
Definitely want to give a shout out to the entire iRacing team. They did a great job all year long, and a lot of great support from them. And then, of course, a special thanks to Robert for organizing this, and you guys for doing a great job on the broadcast. And
that is Matt Cook. He is the Oval Champion. He's Rookie of the Year, and he is winner here today at Phillip Island for the final round. Thank you very much for coming to join us, Matt. Go and enjoy the off-season and get ready for 2019. Next up, we are going to be joined by the champion for 2018, the person who was able to pip Matt Cook, and it's already on your screen. It's Mr. Henry Bennett. Henry, first of all, congratulations on an absolutely storming season. It's finally here. You are the champion. Second place today at Phillip Island. You had a bit of pressure from behind in the early stages, but you were just able to break away and make sure that you were able to cement yourself on that podium.
Yeah, thanks, Jack. Yeah, it feels great to be champion and to finish the season on top. But yeah, nice little battle to start the race with Timo. But I think that allowed Matt to build a comfortable gap, which he maintained to the end. So yeah, big congrats to Matt on his first road win. Well deserved. I think he definitely put a lot of work into it this week, so well deserved.
And well, obviously last year in 2017, you did come away with Rookie of the Year. This year, you came away with Season Champion. And I know Matt Cook has been able to take away Rookie of the Year. You've got some stiff competition next year, especially seeing how Matt has performed in the latter stages of 2018 on the road side of things.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think 2019 is going to be the toughest season yet. Matt and the rest of iRacing are going to be tough competition on both oval and road now. And then Robert and Lucas on the same team now. I think they're going to be stronger than ever. Hopefully back to their 2017 form. So yeah, I think maybe I won the season in the correct year. Won the championship in the correct year because it's going to be a lot harder task in the coming years, I think.
Well, my next question was going to be, well, what are your hopes for 2019? But you pretty much just summed that up in that question. And Henry, you're coming out of this year on a massive high, winning the series going into 2019. You're going to be reigning champion. You're going to have that number one. You are the first driver in Classic IndyCar Series history who's ever had that number one number on his car. And your name is not Robert Grosser. That's got to be a good feeling.
Oh yeah, definitely. Great feeling. Hopefully I can follow Robert's trend and win 3 titles and then have an awful season.
Oh, well, Henry, before we let you go and go join your team, as we're seeing you have a bit of a sideways moment on our stream, who would you like to give a shout out to?
You guys at RaceSpot, everyone that contributes to the league, and my team, Powerslide.
And well, Henry is certainly having a power slide on our screen. He came home in second position today. Last year in 2017, he was Rookie of the Year. 2018, he's the series champion. What can Matt Cook do next year? What can Henry Bennett do next year? What can Robert Grosser and Lucas Laville do next year? As Henry mentioned, we're going to have a chat to both of them now. They are going to come and join us in the broadcast booth, both from Logical Vortex Sim Racing. as Lucas and Robert, welcome for one final time this season to the RaceSpot TV booth. You've both had you were both in a good battle at some point today. First of all, Robert, 4th position. I believe that means that you weren't able to get second in the standings.
Oh yeah, that is true. And Matt winning this one didn't help either. So first of all, congrats Matt for his first road win this season. Well deserved.
And Lucas, you struggled to start off with this season, I seem to remember, but you picked it up. You joined Logical Vortex, and then you had a bit of a at the end. You were running really well today, and I think that just shows that next year you're going to come back stronger than ever.
I hope so, because my stretch of races running in the gravels is a bit long this season, so I really hope next year brings a lot of good results. But the level this year has been so high that I really have to pick up my game to be really competitive.
And obviously, you just said the level of competition this year. And Robert and Lucas, I'm going to ask you this at the same time, and obviously both answered the same question. Do you agree with me that this year has been the best year the Classic IndyCar Series has seen since its inception?
Yes, very clear yes. We had not only the largest grids, but also from the level of competition, from the quality overall. It was really a huge step forward, and thanks to all the guys who were racing with us this season, because they made it possible. We had such a close competition that it was so tough to even get a top 5 this season. So yes, it really improved, and I really hope we can at least keep that level for the next season.
Yeah, I think Robert pretty much said everything that had to be said here. The level is been really, really high this year. From the drivers who joined in, like Matt and Randy Crossno, the guys like this who joined the league, and guys like Henry who really stepped up this year, Timo as well, Yoni, and all them who really progressed. It showed that this car really has a great future on iRacing, and really hope that the league will continue to grow on that.
And well, obviously, one last question before we head ourselves out for the final time in 2018. What are the plans for 2019? What can you reveal will be making up the 2019 Classic IndyCar Series?
Okay, I will just say a few words about that. We intend, first of all, to continue our partnership with RaceSpot TV, like we had this year. That was very nice broadcastings all season long. We want to make the schedule a bit bigger, 14 races next season, and the season opener will take place on March 17th. That is what I can tell you right now.
And well, of course, 2019 sounds like a very exciting year for the Classic IndyCar Series. Back to being team members of Logical Vortex Sim Racing, Lucas and Robert. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to? Let's go to Lucas for this one.
Yeah, big shout out to Logical, JRT, the team sponsors, and also sponsors of the Classic IndyCar Series. Big shout out to you guys at RaceSpot for all the awesome works you've done over the past few years working with us. And big shout out to all the team members who, past and present, who've put a lot of work in making the team what it is, what it was in the past, what it is right now, and hopefully what it will be in the future. Back to a big team on iRacing.
And that is going to be our last driver interview of 2018. That is also just about all we have time for here on RaceSpot TV and the iRacing Esports Network for the 2018 Classic IndyCar Series. Before we go, let's give a final shout out to everyone who gets it done for us. To Istvan Balau for our perfect track cams from trackcams22.com. From Andreas Werner and Andrew Designs, he designs our overlay, and then it's developed by Simon Grossman at appengineering.com, developing the application ATVO, which of course powers our graphics. And live timing and scoring, as always, provided by Nick Thyssen. From all the commentators who have covered the Classic IndyCar Series this year. That is Will Vincent, Gary Weaver, Tom Jacobs, Nolan Rempel, Neil Heatley, myself, I am Jack Styles. Hugo Luis has been behind the cameras. We will be back in 2019 with the Classic IndyCar Series. It is not going to be a season you want to miss. But 2018, it's always been about Henry Bennett. Wasn't about Robert Grosser for once. It's been about Henry Bennett. Next year, we will find out who there's going to be. Is it going to be Henry? Is it going to be Lucas? Is it going to be Mac? Is it going to be Robert? Or is someone else going to break through and manage to take the championship title from the 2018 Classic IndyCar Series? We bid you a very well good night, and we will see you next year.